Hello, everybody. Welcome back to tracking our local shifting real estate market here in Southern New Jersey, Burlington, Camden, Gloucester counties, 900,000 and below. So this week, week 25 of June, it is incredibly hot this week. I apparently need a haircut, and my AC decided to struggle a little bit. So I've been having some fun flushing the condenser coil because there was water all over the floor. So going through that whole process, but luckily I pretty much know what I'm doing, hopefully. So I'm going to hopefully be cooler next week. So I'm a little warm up here in my second floor home office doing this, but we're going to get through this one because we have to. We have to. For the good of the economy, we have to. All right, but let's take a look at some things here real quick. And I should have moved my face out of the way. I have actually been really enjoying that we have had quite stable inventory for a number of weeks now, almost 10 weeks here if I go back. Week 18, we were at low 1300s, and then it was kind of in the 1200s before that. But as we sit here and we look at, all of May and now the first 3 weeks of June, we really haven't had that much more. It's been fairly consistent. We've had a really good, fairly steady new listing inventory between 300 and 400. We've had pending numbers that have been, again, in the high 200s, 300, mid 300s and things like that. And then our closed numbers have been following suit with that. This is the type of stable housing market that we like to see because it kind of gives us a rational approach. The same strategy that works today worked 7 weeks ago. That's what gives us a little more consumer confidence to actually be able to offer and know what to offer and know how to offer. When things were changing so quickly, you didn't quite know what was around the corner. And so there was a lot of unexpectedness going on, and it really shakes consumer confidence, especially as you go in. We've also, for better for worse, we've had stable interest rates at basically and we're here at 6.95% as of the 13th for a base rate. Again, always remember that your lender goes a little bit higher than that, but on Freddie Mac's website, I do not do any interpretation of this. This is literally a copy and paste from their website of what they post every week. 6.95% is a base rate, and that's been fairly steady. So again, a fairly stable amount of inventory and fairly stable interest rates, but that's not the whole story, because that's all well and good. But what has happened, and again, sorry for kind of keep moving myself around here, what we have seen is another all-time record for median list price at $375,000 this week. And that's up from, again, just going back to the beginning of May, 359. So we're up $15,000, a little over $15,000 in 7 weeks. And then if I go back here to the beginning of April, we were at 345. So we've gone up $30,000 since the start of April. If we go all the way back to week 10 of March, we were sort of actually a little bit higher than that. And then as we go back into February, 334. So we're up $40,000 since then. And if we bring it all the way back to the very beginning of the year, 334, it's about the same. So since the beginning of the year, median list price has gone up $40,000 in 25 weeks. So that's the effect of inflation, folks. It just is. That doesn't really have a lot to do with the inventory being too crazy or having all these numbers going. Otherwise, you'd say, oh, it's a supply and demand issue. There's such low inventory that the prices are continuing. Now, do I think there are still more buyers than there are sellers? I guess you could still say that. But we've had a fairly evened out real estate market here. So it's hard for me to say that that's true over these 7 weeks while the prices have gone up considerably. And so that's the effect of inflation. Right? So our expired, withdrawn, and cancels are very, very low here at 50. Our price reductions, again, about 10%, but actually a little bit higher than 10% of what our total active listings are. So that actually might reference a cooling of the market ever so slightly. But we had that same thing last week, and we had that here. So we're kind of in line with all of that. Our average and our median days on market, again, staying fairly similar at this 56 average and our 23 median. The volume in the market has not surprisingly gone up high because we have pretty good inventory, 1459 on an inventory standpoint, and we have the highest prices that we've ever had. So not all that surprising that our total volume on the market is up considerably. Again, since that same time period where we've had stable listings, volume on the market was 525 million, just total across all homes on the market. We're up to 573. So $50 million in additional homes on the market while having, only 60 extra homes. 375, like we said, an all-time record. And we still sit here at our average sold to list price and our median sold the list price, which is basically, okay, where are these homes actually selling as compared to where they get listed? 102.7 for the average and 102% flat for the median. So homes are still going over asking price. That's the average, and the median homes are all still doing that. Some are selling at and below, but obviously not most of them. A lot of them are going over them. And so we sit here and we say, okay, well, what do we start to expect as we go to kind of into these last 2 weeks of June, starting to wrap up what we would think from a June averages standpoint? And obviously June averages, we know that our median list price is going to be incredibly high. We know that our inventory is going to be hovering somewhere in this low to mid 1400 range. So the question becomes, if the prices continue to increase that much, how much does this interest rate need to drop for you to be able to afford the same home that you could maybe at the beginning of the year? We don't know that, right? Because I don't know where this price is going to be in those 2 weeks, and I have absolutely no control over what the Fed is going to do with our interest rates. So just another fun kind of week for us. It's interesting to just see this stable inventory market. So I don't really want to hear everybody kind of yelling at me and saying that there's no inventory. There actually is a lot of inventory, but here's the bigger kicker, and I think I might have mentioned something similar to this last week. What you need to be comfortable with is that the homes that you looked at this time last year, those are no longer in your price point. Those are in a higher price point now. And so the homes that you were not looking at that were basically $30,000 to $40,000 to $50,000 below where you were looking this time last year, those are now your price. Those are now the homes that you're looking for. Now, hopefully, you've had some increase in your income in that time period, but I can probably guess that, like most of you, no, you haven't had that adjusted for inflation increase in your income. And so your total available amount of budget the affordability that you're actually spending on a home is eating away, and it is a higher and higher percentage of your income. So on previous videos, I've also talked about cutting your expenses, trying to live within your means. And I think more than ever, it's super important to try and, hey, grow some vegetables in your backyard, start learning how to bake your own bread, maybe try and cut back on some of the stuff in your life that's expensive and trying to eat out and things like that, because that money's got to come from somewhere. And if your income's not increasing, you have to address the difference in your budget. There is a creeping number of people in America who have credit cards that are starting to come up, and we are hitting like record defaults, almost back to 08 levels of credit cards who are going into default because they can't pay their bills and they owe the monthly payment and they're not getting it. So there's this effective inflation is becoming very real. Now there's a lot of metrics in the economy that says that it's doing well, but again, we talked about how's the economy doing, depends on who you ask, right? We talked about that last week. That's still true today. But for all of us that are under 40, that are still working on a lot of these things, that don't have a ton of equity built up in our homes and things like that, and our income isn't at a point where it is, we are doing worse off than where our parents were doing when they were at our age, when they were at this time, right? Houses, it takes us almost 6 years worth of income in order to accomplish purchasing a home. Back in the 70s, it was only about 2 times or 2.5 times, 2.5 years worth of your income that could pay for the home. So it's just very expensive. So again, we talked about potentially renting over buying last week. We did do that. I still think, I don't want to correct myself, because I still think that's a very good option for a lot of people who are on the fence here. But make no mistake, owning your home has perks outside of just the financial. There's a peace of mind that you get when you own a home. There's the ability for you to bootstrap and do things yourself, right? Now, look, if I rented this place, I would just call my landlord and tell him to go fix the HVAC unit. I like doing this stuff, and I find a little bit of personal pride in doing this stuff, so I'm repairing the HVAC myself. YouTube. You got to learn a little bit. You got to learn a little bit about your house. So anyway, that's going to do it for us here, week 25. I'm excited to see what these next 2 weeks of June are. I guess it's 2 weeks of June, right? We're at the 19th here Wednesday, and we'll be running up until about 10, 11, 10. Yeah, so we'll still have 2 weeks of June left. Just trying to determine if we're going to have one or we're going to jump into July. So anyway, have a great Juneteenth, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.